So, yes, a peculiar title, but one that describes something very literal. Because the privilege to fail is what the boss has. He can't succeed on his own, of course. Usually the boss doesn't know anything. I don't know anything. These guys know how to make games. I can't draw, I can't do anything. So I can't succeed on my own. However, I can fail. That's very easy. I can totally fail. I can make one decision and it fails, everything. So that means that the CEO, if he's a good CEO, he takes responsibility for nothing. Not a single thing except everything. That's the only thing he's responsible for. If everything's okay, he just chills. He has nothing to do. He's not responsible for anything except everything. And the thing is this, that with this privilege to fail come strange things, things that I had not anticipated about the CEO role. I lived something, I experienced something that I hadn't experienced since I was cleaning floors at an old age people home and toilets when I was 19 years old. And I went full circle to that moment. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. Now, I'll show you a short video, 1 minute.
That's a sensational achievement for Haas. Their best ever starts in Formula One.
A great way to start. We have a very good package.
Great for the American team to be so far up the front.
Kevin Magnussen, on for a really good haul of points, is having to stop, and by the looks of it, one of those wheels isn't attached properly.
Hang on, we've got another
not
problem.
Another one, surely not. Roman Grosjean's pulled over to the side of the track. What is happening down at Haas this afternoon? What could have been one of their best weekends on a racetrack has turned into absolute disaster.
Yeah, a tough one to swallow. Not only for me, but the whole team, losing both cars in such a good position.
So, hello. Yeah. So this was 2018 in Australia, and this team, Haas, was a very young team, super entrepreneurial. They licensed stuff from Ferrari. They got, you know, a cool Dutch guy. You can see him in if you watch the episodes. And they did stuff nobody else did. Usually when you have these smaller teams in F1, I'm sorry if you know, I'm a nerd there, but the smaller teams, they usually never get, then if they get, you know, up to 15th seat, that's brilliant. You only get points for the first 10 seats. In this race, something spectacular was happening. They were in 4th and 5th place. They could have won, but and they were 33 laps in. So it was very unlikely they would fall. Each driver, one of them would have made $400,000 and the other $600,000. The teams would have made much more. Plus, it counted to the constructor championship. And so instead of walking away with a couple of dozen million, they sunk it all in the toilet. What went wrong? In the wider sense of the word, since cable is to some extent literal, but to some extent, of course not. And this is a perfect analogy because the cable in this instance was a bolt, and just lack of practice. You know, it's hard to put the tire on in 1.5 seconds. That's what they get. And the guy just wasn't good enough. And it cost the guys next to him hundreds of thousands of euros. That's not right. The time is here. I got more time. And how could that have happened? They did better than anyone, but nobody. This has never happened. And it happened with 2 cars. And it doesn't surprise me, to tell you the truth. Let me tell you about cables and catering. So of course, I wrote this a little while ago, but let me just tell you an anecdote from the last 48 hours. They are very typical 48 hours. Something that I've experienced again and again. I was flying from the US, had been flying everywhere to Iceland. I had broken 2 cables, you know, on the way. And I came here, and the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And they didn't have a cable to put in there. And oh my God, I only had one kind of electric socket, you know, changing device. So I couldn't use the fast charging cable, so I couldn't be charging even this while I was working on it, right? All of these are literal cables. They're literal cables. And I can tell you something, that the day before yesterday, I had an hour-long speak called Who Owns Cyberspace? It was a very complicated topic. It is. I get a headache when I think about it. And it gets mathematical and stuff. It was very easy. It's what I'm doing every day for years and years. There was no problem, right? No, that's never a problem. But when I started the slideshow, what came on the screen was not what I was expecting. And I had to make up a new speak live, you know, there. Not the science that failed, not showing up in airplanes that failed, nothing like that. No. It was a cable. Sometimes it's not cables. And what I say is, I like to say this. A CEO or a company that pays a cleaning staff CEO salary will become bankrupt very soon. That's just how the world works. However, a CEO who's not willing to go on his knees in his suit and clean something from the toilet bowl, he's not worth his salary. And the thing is, I realized when I was a CEO and I was doing this because nobody else was, for some reason, and I was there, and I'm only responsible for everything, and nobody is doing that, so then I have to do it, because then part of everything goes away, right? And you know what very often happens to be with everyone kind of, wants a plausible deniability. Oh, I didn't know the toilet was dirty. Yeah, that's the toilet. And its cables. That's where you'll most often have to find the guy who's last. And if you think that it's just in chaotic environment, absolutely it's exacerbated there. And you have to navigate that. But it's also tens and tens of millions. They did all the difficult work. Rocket science. They work 24/7 on shifts. It never closes. All year round. And it was the nuts. Some things are really banal when you're saying them again and again, but sometimes it takes a time to realize it, how literal they are. And the more, I started my first company when I was 22 years old. That's 28 years ago. It's an internet company, and it's still working since 97. I think that's pretty cool. And then a year later, I sold that. I founded a company called Crowd Control Productions, which was a strange company, doing a product that had changed its name while I was doing a product called the Graphical Mud. This was very chaotic. And one after the other, it was a television production, a startup, a ground up, all kinds of things. I'll be tired. But every single step, every single company, everywhere, it was the cables. It was always that. And I remember, I don't know if anyone of you have watched a show called Lazy Town. It was a children's show. Anyhow, I worked there with the right-hand man of the boss, Magnus. And people would, often talk behind his back, because he was a weird guy, of course, as people are often in that position. And one of the things that he was accused of, which is very, very common, is, first of all, micromanagement, and second of all, having a nervous breakdown out because the flowers haven't been watered. You've probably heard these, And I would disagree. If nobody is watering the flowers, everything isn't going right. But the thing is this: will the company stand and fall with flowers? If you ask me, yes. If you ask anyone else, no. No, it will not. However, if it's flowers, well, what's next? So am I now responsible for flowers, right? No. That's the point when the CEO has to do opposite to what we're taught. You should take responsibility. No, you should run away from responsibility. I don't want to be responsible for flowers. I don't want to be responsible for anything. I just want everything to be okay, and then I don't need to do anything. And I have more minutes left here, but I'll wrap it up nonetheless. So, because one might say, what a fool are you? Why don't you have a system admin or someone who takes care of cables, right? That's easy. Yeah. Okay, I do that. I have a guy. He's a cable guy, hardworking guy. But then some guy calls because there's a meeting on a Saturday, right? And the cable guy is responsible for the cables, and I'm not responsible for them since I have a cable guy. No way, Jose. When you arrive, and then all of a sudden, hey, who's responsible for telling the cable guy? Etc., ad infinitum? Infinitum? And so, my lifelong mentor and the chairman in our company, Chris Deering, I would say is the most successful executive in the game industry. I sold 150 million PlayStation 1 and 2. He's co-founder and CEO. They sold close to 1 billion copies of royalties. They had thousands and thousands of people. And they started it from scratch. Sure, they had a few hundred million from Sony. No, but it was, they got an idea and they started it and they completely dominated everything. And Chris was in the European market. Just look this up. Number 1 and number 2 is PlayStation 1 and 2, not in the US. I think there's number 1 and 4 or something, not in Japan. We were sitting and there was a meeting. We were waiting for a meeting in our company. We were sitting where the balconies were there. And we had, and there was a TV in front, and we were going on a meeting to talk to to talk to some important investors or something, people that owned many monies, okay? And, you know, and there were things to be, you know, strategized and stuff. And we sat down, and the thing is this, he did not ask, okay, guys, do you have the numbers? Are we sure? How are we doing this? So who is who exactly? And this is, you know, no. Nothing of the difficult stuff. What he did is he sat and he said, is everything connected for the meeting? Is the television plugged in? He has a BAFTA Lifetime Award for lifetime contribution to the computer game industry. That's why he's a big CEO and I'm a small one, because he said it before me. Usually it's always me. Thank you very much. Thank you.